Hi, welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts to see what is happening on a long timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at Schnell Investor, and you can also find my blogs on gregschnell.com as well as stockcharts.com. Market's trying to go higher here with the election behind us, a little bit of help or relief apparently with the vaccine looking relatively solid. This is all starting to kind of float the boat of the markets here. So this week I'm going to cover off oil, and before you turn off the page, there's some good reasons to look at oil. We're breaking trend lines all over the place. And so I think there's some real opportunities here, and the inventory data is turning positive, and I'll describe what that means in a second. Refiners are moving up nicely, and I also want to say Happy Remembrance Day. In Canada, we always acknowledge the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month as our Veterans Day. So anyway, thank you to all the veterans out there, both around the world and north-south. Appreciate you for all you do. And what we're going to cover off is just work through some of the charts. I'm going to do some US and some Canadian ones. I own some of these, but I've owned some of them for a while now, like months. So hopefully I haven't loaded my boat on any of this just before I do the presentation. That's not allowed as a CMT Association member. And so, or if we did, we have to disclose it right away. Anyway, I have not done any of that. So just so you know, I've had these positions for a while, and they're starting to kick up. Okay, and if you've got any interest in my newsletter at all, you can go to our website and just check it out there. Dwight and I post a bunch of work over there. You're more than welcome to check it out, so feel free to do that. Okay, let's jump in and go check this out. So first of all, this is a page that I use to kind of describe the current situation with oil. And what it is I've got the price of oil up at the top. All of these red lines are the 20-day moving average. And when everything moves above, it's a good time to get on board. And when everything's below, it's a good time to ignore. So back here in August, when it started to break down, it was a good time to get out of it. I re-entered some in the middle of September here, and then it didn't break out. I got tired of just kind of waiting for the range trade, so I've been sitting on some positions here that are just kind of waffling around. Natural gas has been going up and oil's been going down. So it's been, I'll call it mixed, but basically waiting for that second low to form, and I'll describe that on a different chart here. But all of these things have rung the bell this week as now moving above the 20-day moving average. And again, what we're hoping for is some sort of early notice point that we're getting above here. And as everything goes above them, we'd like to get involved in the picture. So that's the reason that we're covering off oil today. We're literally getting the signal on Monday and Tuesday. And so I just want to come down here and show you the view for the CRB. And what we see is this has been going sideways for a while. And now what we want to see, obviously, is that it starts to go to the upside. And this is the weekly chart of the Commodity Research Bureau paper, and we've been consolidating here for a while, but this week we broke the downtrend on the CRB. We've been sitting just below zero on the PPO and starting to turn up. That's a really nice signature. I really, really like that one. That's a perfect shape where it gets up to zero, hovers for a while, and then starts to turn up. That's kind of what we want to see all the time. So this is the General Commodity Tracking Fund. We're not going to cover that off too much. Here's what's going on with West Texas. It has moved back above its 10-week moving average. It's got a slight downhill series of tops in place, but this was our major low, and now we're coming up, and it takes a few months always for the economy to kind of recover. And now we're starting to see this point where oil has been hovering, let's call it $40, sitting around this level for 6 months now. And what's happening now is each month that we don't drill wells, the inventory data gets tighter. So we want to see this start to pop to the upside. So here we have natural gas, and it's starting to turn up. And quite frankly, I think that looks pretty good. A little bit of a pullback last week. As we go through the winter, we're hoping to get this up into the $4 gas range. But again, we came off the low of $1.60. So it's been a nice run so far. And we think there's still more to come on that. Gasoline and heating oil, all the inventory data came out after the market closed today from API, and that data was very bullish. But what we want to wait for is the IEA report, the energy or EIA report, the Energy Association report, and see what the inventories are doing there. But you can see gasoline moved above the downtrend this week, and so did heating oil. And that's extremely bullish. Heating oil for your house, diesel fuel for your truck, kerosene for airplanes, in that genre. All of this kind of can show up in this heating oil number, but in general, you've got your gasolines and your distillates, and what we're looking for here is this is starting to turn up nicely. And again, if we go back to the crude chart, crude's back above the 40-week, and so, or sorry, the 10-week, and so is natural gas. So with everything above the 10-week, that's a bullish place to get on board. And I particularly like that we've already broken this trend line in here. I haven't drawn it in yet. It's only Tuesday. We'll need to wait for the close. But the bottom line is this looks pretty bullish. Now, let me drip down here. I've got another chart. This is XLE, the ETF for energy. And here's the major low we made. And we've come over testing that low, and we're kind of watching for this to start to show up. And again, we had a nice outside bar a week ago. Starting to turn this up, and now we're popping back through all of this resistance, and this goes all the way back to the beginning of the year. So this is a really important trend line to start breaking. Our PPO is moving back above zero for the first time since late June. This is a very bullish place on the chart, and so I'm getting a little more interested in it. Here's the picture for the refiners. This is the crack ETF, and it doesn't trade a lot of volume, but it still gives us an idea what's going on with this group of stocks. And you can see a big downtrend here, and we popped meaningfully above it, up 15% so far this week. These names are still beaten down. I mean, this ETF was up over $30 here just around the end of the year, or $29 around the end of the year, and it's 22 now. There's lots of room for it to move up just to get back to where it was. And you can see this big downtrend in momentum, and we're sitting right on the edge here. And again, if we start to break above that, I'd be really, really bullish on energy. I think I'm going to be bullish on energy anyway, as you'll see in just a few seconds here. But I do want to show, this was West Texas crude, and what we had was what we call the Bollinger Band, just pinch down. And when you get that, you get an explosive move one way or the other. And so far, we got a fake move down, and so we closed below it, tested lower, moved back inside it, and this week we're soaring back up. And not only are we moving back up, we're now back above the 20-week moving average. And you can see this big long momentum trend on crude. I thought it was going to break earlier. It's pulled back a little bit and now looks like it wants to trend higher. So all of this lines up to me to be setting up very, very nicely. And if crude breaks out to the top side, we have to get above this 43.78, would break the highs of this six-month area here, and we're going to sit around 41.80 tonight. This is Tuesday night as I'm recording it. So market's trying to push back. Again, if it could get back to the top side, our Bollinger Band upside is 43.90, and again, this was 43.78. So if we can close above the top of the Bollinger Band at all, this should really be a river higher, and we'd like to see that. Because the wells aren't drilling as much anymore, what that means, or we aren't drilling for oil as much anymore. We have, I think it's 10 or 15% of the wells in service that we had in service a year ago. With that sort of change, each time a well is drilled, you get 1,000 barrels as soon as it starts to pump, and then as the well continues, it drops down to 300, 200, 100. Well, the big issue right now is we have no new barrels surging onto the market. And so we're sitting here with year-long decline rates that are down around the 100, whereas this time last year there would have been some 1,000 barrels a day stuff coming on from a lot of wells, and now we don't have that. So the issue is we have inventory falling because demand is catching back up to where it used to be. People are starting to drive their cars around. We're starting to learn to live with COVID, and now that the vaccine is stepping out of the way, we'll probably be able to ramp up and at least see the bright light on the other side of the road that we want to cross over to. So we don't want to get too bearish on crude. OPEC, Russia, Saudi, Iraq, Algeria have all agreed to try and work together to help support price and be across the OPEC group. They've actually done a pretty good job of it since they had their big fight in March, and that really plummeted the price of oil. now they all seem to be on the same page and working together. So we have OPEC supporting it. We have low drilling. We have low capital going into the oil company, so they don't have the money to drill. So this isn't going to be easy to catch back up if they have no capital. And as this goes, I think the most important thing to remember, obviously, is everybody thinks electric cars are going to change the world. I agree, they're going to change the world. The real question is, we stopped the world from using oil totally worldwide, and we got down to 80 million barrels a day. And literally everything was parked. Nobody was going to work. Nobody was leaving their house. Everything, buses were stopped. Everything had slowed down, and we're returning to normal. We actually think that with all the stuff I've been reading, I think that, peak oil, if there is such a thing, is coming in 2030, not in 2020 or 2040. And this will be quite a run for the ages because it's been underinvested in for multiple years now. The majors haven't been putting big money in. And Saudi announced this week, and maybe take it for what it's worth, but they said this week, we actually think there's going to be a supply shortage within 2 years. Now, they said 2023. We're heading into 2021. So just literally 2 years out, we could end up sitting in a situation where crude isn't coming out of the ground fast enough, and this all pushes forward. So what we're looking for is, we had our major low, we've come up, and now we're starting to see if we can build this secondary low and climb out of it. And this week, these trend lines are breaking on all the oil companies. So that's what I want to share with you, and if there's some ideas there for you, great. Again, I own some of the Canadian names, and I would encourage you to go and look through the groups, but I'm going to work through these oil companies as we go here and just show you some of the trend lines. So this is Western Gas Partners, and they're all in my oil and gas exploration, priced above $1. This is up 41% this week, yeah. And it was a $42 stock a year and a half ago. It's a $750 stock on Friday, and this week it's now 11, actively moving. And you can see the big downtrend line clearly is broken. Full stochastic moving above 50, which is usually a very bullish place. You can see all the way through here, it didn't do a very good job of doing that. So that's what we want to see it swing up to. And then our scooter ranking ran up, pulled back, and ran up again. That's a very bullish signature. I really like that. But it's back above 75 now, suggesting it's one of the top performing stocks out there in terms of price action. And a couple of things for that. One is it's moving above the 50-day or the 10-week moving average. It's moving above the 40-week or the 200-day moving average. With both of those starting to accelerate to the high side, that's going to make your scooter ranking perform. That's a big part of the scooter ranking. But the second component of it is, where is price, and is price starting to accelerate? And the answer is definitely we're getting some recent acceleration. So that adds another 10% to the price, and then to the scooter ranking. And then we've got some intermediate stuff, and all of these things are starting to turn up. So these are all firing up nicely. And again, the stock can behave very, very well. Just as an example, if this got back to the beginning of the year, it would take us from $11 to $19. That's not a bad trade. You'd probably like that heading into year end. So good reasons to go look at these names. And again, if they can get back to where they were 2 years ago, now that inventory will be tighter, from $10 to $40, I think you could see that's not a bad trade. So here is OVV, and Ovintiv is a Canadian company that moved down and is now headquartered out of Denver, I believe. Big long trend line here and getting ready to break it. I really like the PPO starting to turn up very close to zero. Full stochastic moving above 50, very bullish, and the scooter ranking moving above 75. So all these stocks are actually in the order of the scooter ranking. I should have showed you that over here. So what I've done, I ranked them in the scooter ranking, and then I literally added a digit to the front of these. I've shown you many times how to do that, so I won't show it today. But the idea being, we want to take this and get these names in the right order of the strongest ones first, and that's what we're going to look at. Okay, so I've shown you just what's going on here. So again, my scooter ranking is up here. You can see the yield or the dividend that they pay is in this box here, and it's literally the last yield they paid times 4 or times 12 if it's a monthly or if it's a quarterly. So be aware that's how the yield is calculated. It doesn't tell us if it's going to crash. This one was 62, went to 31. Maybe it goes to whatever, 1 cent. The dividend is just the most recent piece of data times however many periods. So just to be aware of that. But Scooter ranking, we all know, relative strength compared to the S&P 500, and you can see it's been a bit of an underperformer. And now what we'd like to see is this start to turn up here. And then full stochastics on a weekly basis. What we want to see is it either moving above 20, that's a nice place to originate a trade, like back in here. And then moving above 50 is usually a bull market situation where you like to see it. And if it can hold above 50 on the pullbacks, that's really helpful. So that's another thing we like to look for. This chart makes it look like these waves are nothing up here, but this is $30 to $40. This is a beautiful move up of roughly 30 or 40%. It's just dwarfed by the big downtrend. So anyway, so that's my third indicator price with the 10-week in blue, and the green is the 40-week moving average. Volume, obviously, and there's a 30-period moving average, 30-week moving average on that. And then at the bottom, rather than using a MACD, I like to use the PPO. So I'm not going to explain those anymore, but I will highlight them as I go. But the purple, just remember that is relative strength compared to the S&P 500. Okay, so here's Ovintiv, just getting ready to break out here. Had a really positive week. I could have put this off this peak and came down here, and then it would show it actually breaking out already. Doesn't matter. The big long trend line is, the bottom line is we're trying to get through it. This stock is trading around $10. It was 63 just 2 years ago. So if there's an upside opportunity, 6x might not be a bad trade. XEC, Cimarex Energy, breaking this big 2-year downtrend this week. I kind of like that. Again, full stochastic moving above 50. And the Scooter ranking going above 75. Very nice. Targa Resources breaking this little 9-month downtrend. PPO had turned up here a couple weeks ago. It's starting to work its way higher. This week we're getting thrusts across the board. So these things are moving a lot. But again, when stocks are down this hard, this is short covering. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on down here now that it's starting to push. Petrobras out of Brazil, this stock was $7, now firing up to $9. Nice push. Scooter ranking, I also put a line here sometimes around the 30 level. When it's basing out down here, sometimes that can be horrific, and a nice place to get on board is when it breaks through. Obviously, this one didn't work out very well, but many times that'll be a really good place to get on board. As you can see back in here, got on board, and that was a nice run all the way from $10 to $17. And it'll wobble. Here's your full stochastic coming down to 50 and taking back off. PBR, I like it. Petrobras. Here's Par Pacific Holdings breaking a really nice downtrend, up 25% this week. Scooter ranking breaking out of this 30 zone, pretty solid. Our Antero Resources sitting in a sideways range here. And again, even if you're not interested right now, keep these stocks on the radar, because I think they're going to start to cook even if they pull back for the next whatever while we get through I'll call it the harshest part of the COVID situation. CNQ, Canadian Oil Company, the largest one here, breaking the downtrend, popping to the upside, looks pretty good. Breaking my downtrend on my PPO, I like that. So just starting to move. Full stochastic is making a higher low, which is usually very bullish. And the second thing to look for is now it's moving above 50. That's a nice place to think about it. Up 27% this week. Petrobras, again, we'll just skip that one. Bonanza Creek Energy, I didn't mark this one, and the main reason is because it didn't really have anything going on it before. So I kind of want to buy stuff that's beaten down and is popping up, not just stuff that's back where it's at. You might think different. Anyway, this one is at $22. If so, it's just getting ready to break out to new 10-month highs, and that would be a nice place to get on board. MPC, Marathon Petroleum, you see the big downtrend here for roughly a year, starting to break out to the upside. Relative strength to the S&P is starting to turn up. I like that. I like the full stochastic making a higher low and starting to head up here, moving above 50, breaking the trend line. This is very nice. And you got this big downtrend line here starting to break out to the upside. I think it's very, very helpful when all of that coincides. So here's PDC Energy, and you can see big, 2-year decline, $47 down to 14, breaking out this week through this downtrend. Now at $15, PPO is making a much higher low, and you want to see that start to turn up. Again, we're only on 2 days of volume, and it's already at 5 million. The average is 7.5 million. So with another 3 days of volume, we should probably have a nice big volume stack over here. 10, 12 million shares traded. So we'll get a volume breakout probably as well. Looking in on Imperial Oil, this is a Canadian division. I don't want to say a Canadian division. A piece of ExxonMobil that they own a significant chunk of this company, Imperial Oil, and you can see this chart very definitely breaking the downtrend. Same thing here. PPO momentum, I really like it when it has a wide gap then a small gap, and on here you start to make the higher low. It's basically saying momentum's terrible, rallies up, momentum trying to fall apart, and it starts to turn back up very, very quickly. That's really nice. Next step, get above this black line. Step after that, get above the zero line and get back into positive territory. Pay-to exploration, I didn't do this one just because the chart is pretty choppy, and I don't want to focus on this one. Let me leave it there. There's other details about it that I don't like as much. Hearthstone Energy, a big downtrend here, trying to break out this week. It looks pretty good. $3 stock. It's been as high as $11 back here a couple of years ago. Again, can it get going here? It's held up nicely all through this 6-month range where oil was pulling back. So if we can see a nice turn here, that could be helpful. Full stochastic turning up here just above 20, and so is the PPO momentum trying to turn higher again. You can see it on the PPO histogram. It went negative very briefly and now back positive. So just coming down, touching the line and taking off is what we call a kiss and go. Really nice to see. Okay, SSL, Sassoil. This one, it's trying to turn up. When the scale is scrunched like this, it gives you an idea of how beaten down this was. 2 years ago it was $35. It's trading at $5. There's a bit of a compression there. Now the real question is, it was even $20 just a year ago. So can it get back to there? Well, that would be a triple from here. PPO is starting to turn up. Full stochastic moving above 20, giving you a nice buy signal. And again, scooter ranking starting to turn back up, moving above 30, which I like. And as I said on the first chart, I like it when it jumps up, pulls back, and then continues higher. So we want to see more of that. Okay, Repsol, same thing. Look at this pullback, up 32% this week. Yep, that's the Spanish oil company taken off to the upside. Total Elfina, this is the French company breaking this big downtrend. So what you're seeing is worldwide trend breaking on all these oil companies. Yield at 7%. Up 20% this week, breaking the relative strength downtrend, full stochastic starting to fly. I like it. Range Resources, I didn't annotate it because it hasn't done anything. And even this week with all the big moves up, it's still moving. It's bouncing off the 40-week moving average, so it's nice, but the full stochastic is still pointed down. The reason for that is because the full stochastic takes an average, so it'll actually need to get 3 averages going. It uses a 3 here, and so that 3-period average, what you want to worry about, or what you'll see is all of a sudden it's using this one, this one, this one. This week it'll start to use the new one and then turn back up perhaps. So that would be good. Anyway, PPO is above 0. Nothing wrong with this stock. It could definitely bounce off the 40-week and start to go higher. I just didn't, it doesn't annotate as nicely as the trend lines breaking on all these other names. Sunoco, trying to break to the upside here. This stock's been relatively strong, got almost all the way back to where it was in January already. So a relatively nice high. Crescent Point Energy is another Canadian name, breaking down here really hard from 480 to $1.50 and trying to turn up all the right signals firing off on the indicators. WPX Energy, trying to get above the 30 level on the scooter ranking. You can see this year-long downtrend, and you see this movie over and over and over this week. All of these things are starting to break through the downtrend. Cenovus Energy, same thing. They just bought out Husky Energy in Canada. Big player, 700,000 barrels a day, something like that. So relatively strong stock. It was up around $10. It's trading at $4. PPO is trying to turn up. Lots of good things going on there. LNG Energy, Cheniere, known for their LNG terminals. to sell liquefied natural gas. Trying to break out here out of this range, $57 to $45, halfway in the middle. It doesn't have a very nice candle this week, but it is natural gas, and it's been oil that's been breaking higher this week, natural gas before that. So this one's starting to move. We'll see if it can get a little more traction. Adams Resources and Energy trying to break out to the upside. And here's China's Petroleum and Chemical Corp. Very nice, big 2-year downtrend starting to break out to the upside here. Lots of reasons to like that kind of stuff. Texas Pacific Land Trust breaking out. It's done this once before, but I like the full stochastic making higher lows here and starting to work its way out. I'd really like to see that big downtrend break. Okay, I'm going to switch over and do a couple of the Canadian stocks. I've already shown you the CNQ on the US listing. These are just some of the stocks I look at regularly in Canada. So this one's holding up nicely. Quickly go to Crude Energy. This one's a 50-cent stock, so try not to talk about that smallest stuff. Here's the Synovus one I just showed you on the US side. Enerflex, this company makes natural gas systems to compressor stations and things like that. Anyway, there's a big downtrend line here in place. It's been basing for 6 months. If it could start to turn higher, that'd be a really nice kick. This was $20 2 years ago and $10 at the beginning of the year. So it's a double just to get back to where it was. Enbridge Pipeline Company, big downtrend here, trying to break out this week. I've got a full stochastic starting to turn up in the PPO trend line, starting to break here, so that looks pretty good as well. Enerplus, big downtrend line here, trying to get through another oil and gas producer, and same thing, all of these trend lines starting to try and break to the upside. Gibson's, this one's a terminaling company, so gets involved things like Cushing. They don't have a Cushing terminal, they have terminals at a place called Hardisty and stuff like that. They've been under pressure here recently. If this could get going, it hasn't obviously yet. Husky Energy just got bought out, so we should just leave that chart. High Arctic Oil Field Services, sideways price action. And then Kelt Exploration, I like this one. Big downtrend here. It's been spending 4 weeks going sideways after breaking the downtrend, so just either people getting on board the stock or trying to build positions in it, don't really know. But what we see here is it's breaking above both moving averages this week and a pop to the upside. Full stochastic moving above 50. Nice to see. Meg Energy, this one's a heavy oil producer. Downtrend line in place, obviously rallying above the 10-week this week. The 40-week is right here hiding under the downtrend line. Would like to see this one pop up and see if it can get going to the upside. I'm just going to move on. New Vista, I mean, these companies this was $7 2 years ago. It's $1. That's a bit of an upside if it can get back to any sort of production profile. So if this can start to break out here, these look really attractive. And looking at precision drilling, some of these drillers, looking nice. We could have looked at Halliburton and Schlumberger as well, but you see this big downtrend line going on for years. $4 a couple of years ago, $1 now. No drilling action. If that's starting to improve, perhaps this can break out, and when it does, should be a nice little pop. Pembina Pipeline, so these are some of the other ways to play the Canadian oil sector. You've got a downtrend. With that downtrend, what you're watching for is, can it finally start to break out? And if we're going to start to see more oil demand, that will help these pipelines. Okay, hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the names that we've got to look forward to out there. What I'd like you to consider is that the whole sector looks ready to turn up, and you want to try and buy commodities near the low. So anyway, I think we've got some signals. Thanks for taking the time to join me in Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. You can also see the recordings on the StockCharts TV YouTube page. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're going to bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.